Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I am an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about Venus and Mercury that between March and mid-April are both going to turn retrograde at the same time. On top of that, they are also going to be in conjunction between Aries and Pisces. Now, this transit is going to be very challenging because during the month of March, we're also going to have two eclipses expected for March 14 and March 29, respectively. So let's take a look at the meanings of Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde in conjunction between the zodiac signs of Aries and Pisces. Let's start with Mercury. Now, as we know, Mercury is the planet ruling thought, the mind, communication, and all interconnections such as roads, public transportation, and so on. And for this reason, on a physical level, Mercury retrograde can cause delays, slowdowns, and misunderstandings. This is because the cosmic mind sort of turns inwardly and generates frustration every time we want to insist to deal with the external world rather than focusing within. Now, in particular, from a physical standpoint, Mercury in Aries represents speed, the speed of the mind, as well as the speed of movement. For this reason, all the usual Mercury retrograde issues here are going to involve haste and speed. It is advisable to take it slow and to take it easy in every sense, not to give in the temptation of haste. Please also remember that in the worst case scenario, Mercury retrograde in Aries could also lead to car accidents. Now, where does all this rush lead us to? From Aries, Mercury will enter back into Pisces, the zodiac sign of its fall and exile. And this means that from a physical point of view, too much haste will lead us to chaos, which is a typical Piscean signification. In short, not always doing things quickly is going to speed up the results, especially if we have to go back and sort of redo everything from scratch. On a psychological level, Mercury retrograde in Aries easily leads us to misunderstandings and real arguments. This means that the fire element of Aries must be tamed and processed so that it does not overcome our mind. And since Mercury is in conjunction with Venus, these arguments could definitely affect our relationships as well as our friends and our family life. Unfortunately, from a collective perspective, Mercury retrograde in Aries does not help at all to ease the tension on an international scale. Now, this Mercury, again, will eventually go back into Pisces, worsening its condition, being in Pisces in both exile and fall. And this means that we really want to avoid these quarrels from turning into real emotional drama that are typical of Pisces. And in this regard, we want to remember March 30th, when Mercury will enter Pisces right the day after the second eclipse of the season. On a spiritual level, we want to remember also that Mercury retrograde can definitely be useful for introspection and shadow work. And this energy allows us to turn our minds to understanding and also resolving internal rather than external issues. So we can definitely make good use of Mercury retrograde in this regard. Moving on to Venus retrograde, we know that in general, Venus represents beauty, pleasure, and love. It is a very, very important planet because it basically represents our value-given faculty, our judgment. That is, the ability to attribute a value to things quite easily based on what we like and what we don't like, based on what we love or we don't love. So being our judgment, When Venus turns retrograde, she makes us questioning the way we have considered so far people, things, places, and situations. So basically, Venus retrograde is all about second-guessing what we usually like and appreciate. Now, from a physical standpoint, Venus tends to make us reevaluate all the things around us that no longer correspond to our aesthetics, to our canon of beauty, so to speak. And in the first phase, Venus retrograde is in exile in Aries. And this means that this process of reevaluation has sort of Aries modalities, right? As we know, these modalities are not very sweet and delicate, but rather they tend to emerge forcefully, also through criticism, if not even through contempt or disgust. This Venus could make us brutally notice, from a physical point of view, not only what we no longer like, but also what is starting to disgust us a little bit. Now, we have to point out that this sorting process is taking place for the greater good, since in its second phase, Venus retrograde is going to be in Pisces, the zodiac sign of her exaltation. Now, Pisces is one of the zodiac signs of creativity and art, and this means that Venus retrograde is going to retrace her steps, getting rid of what's ugly to embrace a higher form of beauty. On a soul level, on a more psychological level, Venus retrograde in Aries could lead us to reevaluate all the things that are no longer able to give us fire, to give us passion. So doubts, second thoughts, or indecision could arise relative to, again, interests, people, or situations that have become a little bit boring and that are no longer able to give us that fire, that passion that Venus in Aries craves for. And again, this process is for the good, because Venus retrograde in Pisces will tend to make us find and rediscover this passion, this joy for creativity. However, please remember that Venus is in conjunction with Mercury retrograde, so at least from a relational point of view, this process is not going to be easy and could require a lot of effort on our part. On a spiritual level, let's remember that from this perspective, Venus, and especially a Venus in Pisces, represents art as a vehicle of the spirit. Now, Venus retrograde between Aries and Pisces represents, basically, from this perspective, a withdrawal in our inner world, a progressive distancing from the roughness of Aries, and opening up to this more Piscean spiritual dimension of existence through art and beauty. So here you can see a summary with all the important dates. Overall, this transit of Venus and Mercury retrograde will last from March 2nd to April 13, with the first stationing of Venus on March 2nd at 10 degrees of Aries, and that of Mercury on March 15 at 9 degrees Aries. Then we have the ingress of the two planets into Pisces, which is very interesting because it basically changed everything, right? In fact, Venus goes from Aries, where she is in exile, to Pisces, where she is in exaltation, whereas the opposite occurs with Mercury, because Mercury passes from Aries, that it is a zodiac sign where the planet is peregrine, to Pisces, where this planet is in fall and exile. So the two will move retrograde up to 24 degrees Pisces and 26 degrees respectively, turning direct again on April 13 and April 7. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights, especially the next videos on the eclipses. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.